"Don't embarrass me like that again, Grandpa." She shouted loud enough for the whole room to hear. "Have you ever been humiliated by someone you raised right there in front of everyone after all the years you stood by them? I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I just walked out and started planning how silence could speak louder than any revenge. Before we jump in, I want to know where in the world are you right now and what time are you listening? Let me know in the comments." The night still hums in my head, music chatter, the kind of noise that never fits a man my age. I stood by the punch table, holding a glass. I didn't want watching my granddaughter glide through her friends like she owned the room. 16, every glance mattered. Every word could crown or ruin her. I'd paid for it all, the hall food, DJ flowers. Maybe I wanted her happy, or maybe I needed to feel needed again. I ironed my shirt twice, matched the cufflinks, but no one noticed. When I stepped forward to hand her a small box, a locket that once belonged to her grandmother, she turned. Her friends had their phones up, filming everything. Then came the line bright and sharp enough to cut through the music. "Don't embarrass me like that again, Grandpa." The laughter around her faltered, then returned in small bursts. I froze, still holding that box that suddenly felt too heavy. No one moved. She looked away, trying to smile for the cameras. I set the gift next to her cake and walked out. Cold air hit me hard, the kind that stings and reminds you you're still here. Music leaked faintly from the doors. People kept dancing the night, carrying on like nothing had happened. In my truck, I sat with the engine off until my hand steadied. A calm spread through me, the kind that comes when a door closes for good and you realize you're not going to reopen it. Home was dark. I didn't turn on the lights. I sat at the kitchen table and looked at my hands, old-lined, mapped with veins. I'd built engines, repaired things, solved problems, but nothing prepared me for one sentence from someone I loved. I remembered holding her as a baby, her father already gone, her mother lost. I'd stepped in because that's what family does. I told myself she'd understand one day. That night, I didn't sleep. Her words replayed again and again, that edge of shame wrapped in laughter. By morning, I felt blank, no anger, no sorrow, just emptied. Neighbors waved as I got the paper. I waved back, forgetting their names. The headline was about the coming snow. I folded it and left it by the sink. The phone rang several times. I didn't answer. Her mother would say, "Rachel didn't mean it, that she got caught up in the moment." She always had reasons ready, a way to turn sharp things into misunderstandings. I boiled water, forgot to pour it, sat again, listening to the fridge hum, and a car roll past. Ordinary sounds, but heavier now. That line, "Don't embarrass me," carried more than words. It was years of care brushed away in one breath. Maybe things don't die from fights, but from sentences like that. I drove to the park where I used to take her. The swings hung, still leaves piled beneath. I saw her as a child running toward me, ice cream, dripping, laughing. I could still feel her small hand in mine. When I came home, a message blinked on my phone. She didn't mean it. Please don't make this a big deal. I typed deleted and finally wrote, "I'm fine," but I wasn't. Something had shifted quietly, like a door unlatched from within. I'd always thought silence was love, that staying calm was noble. But silence, when no one's listening, is just a slow erasure. I brewed another pot, drank it bitter and too strong. Out front, a few kids passed, laughing, backpacks bouncing. The sound reminded me of her voice years ago, before distance replaced warmth. The locket sat on the table, unopened. It held a photo of her at 5 on my shoulders, grinning at the fair. I closed it and set it aside. The phone stayed on the counter. I didn't reach for it, didn't explain, didn't fix, just sat there breathing while clouds thickened and the day dimmed early. The clock ticked louder. The pot hissed longer. I moved slow, as if every step needed permission. Missed calls blinked, my daughter-in-law, the event planner, one of Rachel's friends. None worth hearing. A neighbor waved. I lifted my hand halfway, stopped. People in small towns mean well until they need a story. I wasn't giving them one. Linda came by with a paper bag that smelled faintly of cinnamon. "Thought you might not have eaten," she said. I let her in. The kitchen looked worn crumbs yesterday's paper half-washed plates. She set out a small apple pie. "It's warm," she said, cutting 2 slices. "You didn't have to." "I know. I wanted to." We ate. The pie was too sweet, but I didn't mention it. "They say things got rough at the party," she said. "That's one word. She's 16, Ed. They don't see the damage they cause." I nodded. Damage was easy to excuse when it wasn't yours. "You've always been patient," she said. "Maybe that's why this hurts more." Her hand stayed steady as she spoke. Years ago, she'd lost her boy Rachel, used to play with him. She knew the kind of silence that fills a room when no one knows what to say. "Do you ever wish you'd spoken sooner?" I asked. "All the time," she said. "But regret doesn't fix much. You speak when you're ready, not when you're told to." She promised to call and left. I washed the dishes, dried the same plate twice. Light crossed the floor, and for a moment I almost felt normal. The phone buzzed. "She's just a kid, Ed. Please let it go." Then another. "Sorry you got upset. Not sorry for what I said, just sorry I noticed." I set the phone down, picked it up again later. Online, Rachel posed with her friends from the party. Best night ever. My name wasn't there. It didn't need to be. Days blurred. At the diner, people looked too long. At the post office, someone asked if I was doing better. I didn't remember saying I wasn't. I stayed busy, tightened a hinge, oiled the gate rearranged tools I never used. But stillness drags out what you'd rather keep buried. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, my hand frozen mid-air, that box left unopened. Walked the neighborhood one night. Houses glowed, voices drifted, someone grilled out back. Past the church, heard singing, kept going. An envelope waited in the doorframe when I returned. My daughter-in-law's handwriting. "You're still part of this family. Let's not ruin what's left." Folded it neatly, set it on the counter. "What's left," I muttered. The words tasted like rust. Linda called the next morning. "How are you holding up still on my feet?" "That's a start. Don't vanish, Ed." People mistake silence for surrender. Neither of us spoke after that. We both knew that's what I'd been doing. Went to the store later. A pair of teenagers near the counter whispered my name. Small towns don't need permission to invent stories. Paid and left. Unpacked slow cans, folded bags, one motion flowing into the next. The pantry door clicked shut. The phone rang. Didn't move. Turned the radio on low, an old country song about losing what can't be replaced, the singer's voice cracking where it mattered most. Stopped going to the diner, too many faces pretending not to stare. Word had spread, as it always does, the party my early exit, Rachel crying later. People filled the blanks with what they preferred to believe, went back to the grocery store just to feel part of something again. 2 women behind me whispered, one saying, "That's the old man from that Sweet 16 mess." The other gave a soft laugh. Paid and walked out. Carried the damp in my sleeves. Legs heavy, slowed down, not eager to reach the house. Some silences weigh more within walls than anywhere else. On the porch, the phone blinked. Rachel had posted a picture, her and her friends beside a new car, all smiles. Can't let negativity ruin your vibe. Scrolled past, but her face stayed not cruel, just far away. Poured another cup, though one already sat cold. Same bitterness, no matter how it's made. Tried reading, tightening a screw turning on the radio, nothing held. At the library, Linda was shelving books, humming low. She looked up. "You're out early," she said. Needed a change. I answered. She nodded. "You look tired." "I am." We sat at a small table. She handed me a crossword torn from the paper. Keeps the mind sharp. I filled a few blanks, stumbled on regret. No word fit. After a pause, she said, Funny how people mistake forgiveness for permission. What do you mean they think forgiving means forgetting? And once you forget, they get to do it again. Her tone was calm, but the thought stuck. Yeah, I said, I know that kind. When I left, clouds hung low, air colder. A message buzzed. Can we talk? For a moment, I almost said yes. Then her voice from that night came back sharp and young. I pocketed the phone. Some words can wait. I drove without aim past the old steel plant where I'd spent half my life. Gates locked, signs rusted. I once thought that job would last forever. Families, too. At home, an envelope waited in the mailbox. My name scrawled in haste. I didn't mean it like that. You made me feel small, and I reacted. Please don't hate me. I read it twice, folded it, placed it in the drawer by my chair. Not forgiveness, just storage. The next day, while I was raking leaves, Linda stopped by. You hear from her, sort of. She brushed off the porch rail. You don't have to keep carrying it. Not everything broken needs fixing. I don't know what else to do. Maybe that's the point. Doing nothing is sometimes an answer. Before bed, another message waited. Grandma used to say you were the kindest man she knew. I miss her. I miss you too. I typed, erased, typed again, then locked the phone and set it face down. The house stayed still, not hurting anymore, just familiar. It sat beside me like an old friend who'd stopped asking questions. They wanted to meet at a diner on Lincoln Avenue, one of those places that smells like coffee no matter the hour. I arrived first, stirred sugar into my cup just to keep my hands busy. The waitress nodded like nothing was wrong. When they came in, Rachel and her mother, I stood out of habit. Her mother waved it off. Don't be formal, Ed. We're family. The word didn't sound the same anymore. Rachel kept her eyes on the menu. Her mother started right in. We all said things we didn't mean. She's just a kid. You know how teenagers are. I nodded. Rachel spoke next, her tone flat. I'm sorry if I embarrassed you. I wanted that night to be perfect. I overreacted if I asked. She glanced down. I didn't mean it like that. Her mother leaned forward. Ed, we should let this go. What matters now is the future. We've fallen behind on the house payments. There it was. She slid an envelope across the table, casual as a bill. We were hoping you could help just until we're caught up. The cup in front of me had gone cold. I watched the steam fade and looked at Rachel. She kept her eyes on her hands' nails, tapping the table. You think I'm angry about what you said I told her? But anger fades. What stays is how you looked at me after. Her mother sighed. Please, Ed, not this again. You're right, I said. She started talking about interest rates and deadlines. I stopped listening. Cars moved past beyond the glass, people going about their errands, all lighter than we were. Rachel finally spoke. You always said family sticks together. I did, I said, but it only works when everyone's holding on. The words hung there. Her mother's smile tightened. So that's a no. I folded my napkin. It's not a yes. She reached for her purse. I should have known. Pride always came first with you. Maybe I said, it's the only thing that stayed when people didn't. Rachel's eyes filled, but stayed steady. You don't understand. We're drowning. I do, I said. I just stopped calling it family. Her chair scraped back. Forget it. They left the doorbells clattering behind them. I sat with 2 half-empty cups and the envelope between them. The waitress stopped by. Everything okay here? Fine, I said, leaving cash on the table. Just family business. Driving home, I passed the bank they'd mentioned, the same one where I'd opened my first account 30 years ago. The sign flashed a slogan about trust and community. I almost laughed. At home, the house felt colder. I set the envelope on the counter beside bills that weren't mine. The paper inside pressed against the flap like it wanted out. I left it sealed. Linda called later. How'd it go? As expected, meaning, bad meaning clear. You did what you had to. Maybe. Doesn't feel like winning. It's not about winning, she said. It's about stopping the bleeding. Her words lingered after she hung up. Street lights blinked on one by one. A dog barked somewhere, then stopped. I opened the fridge, took out leftovers, didn't eat. Poured a glass of water instead, and watched the bubbles rise. The kitchen clock ticked like it was counting something down an ending or just another day. I gathered old papers from the drawer, the will the house deed my savings plan. Dust had settled along the edges. Rachel's letter was still there, folded neat. I slipped it into the same folder and locked it in the cabinet under the stairs, not to hide it, just to clear the table. When I sat again, the chair gave its usual creak, steady and familiar. I stayed until the clock hit 10, then washed the mug, wiped the counter, and turned off the light. The stillness felt cleaner, as if it finally belonged to me again. Walked down the hall. The faucet dripped once steady, but I didn't go back to stop it. The day felt heavier, though the sky was clear. I woke early, the floor cool beneath my feet. Sat a while before moving. Doing nothing had turned into habit, and habits, once rooted, start to own you. The park near the library was nearly empty, just a few joggers, and a man walking his dog. Linda sat on a bench feeding pigeons bits of muffin. "Didn't expect to see you this early," she said as I sat. "Didn't expect to be up," I answered. She gave that careful smile people use when they're watching what they say. "You look like a man with too much on his mind." I handed her a thermos. "Maybe just a man out of patience?" She nodded toward the lake. "Ever think patience can turn against you?" "It did," I said. Started as kindness, ended as silence. She pulled her coat close. "You've been generous all your life, Ed. Maybe it's time that stops being a virtue." Her words stayed between us, plain and heavy. I wanted to tell her generosity still mattered, but couldn't think of a single reason why. She asked if I'd heard from Rachel. "Not since the restaurant," I said. "I'll hear when the bills come due, and when that happens I'll listen," I said. Just not like before. We sat until the sun climbed higher. She told me about a new library program, kids reading to retirees. I said I might stop by. It wasn't a promise, just a way to keep silence from winning. On the way home, I stopped for gas. The clerk, a boy about Rachel's age, rang me up. His tag said, "Evan, you're Rachel Mason's grandpa, right? Used to be." I said, "She came in last week. Nice car." "Yeah, she's always liked nice things." Driving off, I caught my reflection in the mirror, eyes tired, the space between anger and sorrow nearly gone. The mailbox held bills flyers, one letter from the bank. I didn't open it. Made a sandwich. I didn't want 8, half-tossed the rest. Linda called later. "How did things really end?" "They asked for help. And you said I didn't." "That's an answer too," she said. "When I lost Mark, people told me time heals everything. It doesn't. It just lets you remember without bleeding." I asked, "You think that works for family? Maybe not for what's lost," she said. "Maybe for what's left." I went out to rake the yard. Smoke drifted from nearby chimneys. The motion felt steady, almost calming. My yard wasn't much, but keeping it neat made me feel like something still answered to me. The phone buzzed. "We need to talk about the mortgage. Please pick up. Let the screen dim." Another message followed. "If you don't help, they'll take the house." That night, I sorted through old folders, tuition payments, medical bills, the down payment on their house. Each receipt folded and dated small proofs of a life that once made sense. No anger, no pride, just a kind of tired clarity. Maybe reaching a limit isn't about shouting or crying. Maybe it's just stopping. Before bed, I called Linda. "You ever wonder how much help is too much?" "You know the answer," she said. "You just don't like it yet." Maybe. But I'm getting there. She told me to take a walk tomorrow, clear my head. I said I would. After the call, the house felt lighter. Not because anything changed, but because I'd stopped trying to rearrange what was already broken. Closed the curtain and set the rake by the door. It leaned a little to one side, and I left it that way. Drove downtown to a small law office I hadn't visited in years, the same one that handled my pension paperwork after retirement. The receptionist greeted me with that careful tone people use for men who look like they've come for bad news. I waited on the worn couch until Mr. Holloway appeared, looking surprised but polite. "Ed Mason," he said, shaking my hand. "Been a while. What brings you in? I need to change a few things," I told him. He gestured toward his office. "All right. What kind of changes? Everything I used to share the house savings emergency fund for my granddaughter. I want it all back in my name." He adjusted his glasses. "That's quite a shift." "Any reason? I just think it's time." He didn't press, just began sorting papers. The room carried that dry scent of paper and old coffee. When he slid the first document across the desk, he paused. "You sure about this, Ed? Could cause some tension." "Tension's already there," I said. "This just writes it down." We went through each form in silence. Signing my name again and again felt like cutting strings I'd tied myself. When we finished, he said, "Final copies next week." "You want me to notify the family?" "No," I said. "I'll handle that." The day was unusually warm. I stood on the sidewalk a while, letting the sound of traffic fill what my thoughts couldn't. The decision didn't bring relief, just a kind of settling like dust after something falls. On the drive home, I stopped at the hardware store, picked up new locks for the shed and paint for the porch rail. Doing something with my hands steadied me. At home, I sanded the rail, each stroke wiping away a thin layer of color. For once, that felt like progress. The mail truck stopped. The carrier waved, handed me a few envelopes. Bill's flyers, one thick from the bank. I set it on the counter. Later, I opened it. Loan papers. My name typed neatly on the co-signer line. I hadn't signed them. Someone had. The handwriting was close enough that most wouldn't notice. I did. I went page by page, tracing the lines of my name the way I used to check Rachel's homework, slow, deliberate. The forgery was careful. Not a mistake, a choice. After a while, picked up the phone, almost called the bank, then stopped. Not yet. I wanted to see what they'd do next. Instead, I called Linda. She answered on the second ring. "You sound tired," she said. I found something, I told her. "They used my name for a loan. Big one." Her breath caught. "Ed, are you sure enough?" "What now?" "Not sure, but I'm done pretending it's confusion," she said softly. "Sometimes people only learn when the person they depend on steps away." "I think I just did," I said. Before hanging up, she told me to eat. I almost laughed. "I'll try." That night, I sat at the kitchen table with a pad of paper listing every loan payment and promise. Years turned into numbers, cold exact. What came wasn't rage, just clarity. I'd given past reason. Near midnight, a glass of water in hand, I caught my reflection in the dark glass and flinched, thinking for a moment it belonged to someone else. A dull thud at the door broke the stillness. No one there, only a manila envelope on the step. No name, no note. More copies of the same forged documents. Someone wanted me to know they knew. Laid them beside the first set under the light, every page identical signature and all. Anger didn't rise. What settled instead was a sharp awareness, like stepping out of fog onto firm ground. The clock inched past 1. Papers, stacked drawer-locked glass, washed and left upside down to dry. The faucet drip stopped. I waited, listening. Nothing. Fingers traced the table's worn edge. Something in me shifted, slow, certain, like an old door finally closing. They came 2 days later, Rachel and her mother, without calling. Their car pulled up while I was cleaning the porch rail. The sight of them didn't bring anger or surprise, just the dull calm before a storm you've already lived through. Both dressed too neatly for an unannounced visit. Her mother smiled thinly. "We really need to talk," she said. "I figured you might," I replied. Rachel kept her hands in her pockets. She looked smaller somehow, maybe guilt, maybe exhaustion. We went in. I poured water, sat across from them at the kitchen table, where I'd read those forged papers 2 nights before. Her mother started first. "Ed, we know you've seen the documents. There's been a misunderstanding with the bank." "Was the misunderstanding before or after someone signed my name?" She faltered. "It wasn't like that. We were desperate. The loan officer said you'd need to co-sign. And," Rachel interrupted, voice shaking, "I thought you'd help like always." "That's the problem," I said. "You thought I'd help no matter what." The clock in the hall marked each second like it was counting the space between us. Her mother leaned forward. "Please, Ed. If we don't fix this, the bank will sue." "We could lose everything. I already lost something," I said, "just not the kind they can repossess." She pressed her lips tight. "You're overreacting. Family helps family. You raised her. She didn't mean harm." Rachel's voice cracked. "I was scared, okay? I didn't want Mom to see how bad it was. The bills kept coming. I panicked. I thought you'd understand." "I do," I said. "That's why it hurts." Her mother's tone sharpened. "So what now? You'll let us drown? Let your granddaughter face this alone? I'm not punishing anyone," I told her. "I'm just stepping out of a story that doesn't fit anymore." She stood. "You can live with yourself after this, easier than I have lately." Rachel rose too. "You don't have to do this." "I think I do," I said. "Maybe one day you'll understand." They left. The door closed too softly for how heavy it felt. I didn't watch them go, just sat there, hands folded, staring at the faint circles their glasses left on the table. Later, I walked to the garden. The sun hung low and damp soil clung to my boots. I started pulling weeds that didn't need it more for the motion than the purpose. My hands moved like they used to when fixing machines, steady, automatic, one problem leading to another until the noise stopped. My shoulders ached when I straightened. There was a time I would have called Linda, asked her to stop by just to talk. I didn't. Some things have to sit alone. At the sink, I washed my hands, dirt trapped beneath my nails. It reminded me of Rachel as a kid, palms full of dandelions, face streaked with the same stubborn streak I once admired. The phone rang twice, then stopped. I didn't check who it was. The house settled, and I let it. Evening thickened. I made soup from what was left in the pantry. The spoon against the pot made a steady rhythm. When I sat to eat, I thought of Rachel's eyes, not angry, not defiant, just the moment someone realizes a door has closed. Halfway through, I heard steps on the porch. A knock followed, uncertain, uneven. I hesitated, then opened the door. Rachel stood there, coat loose, eyes red. "I didn't come to argue," she said. "I didn't think you did. I just wanted to say I'm sorry." Her voice sounded worn, like it had traveled too far. She didn't add anything. "I know," I said, "but sorry doesn't mend what it broke." She nodded. I figured. She reached into her pocket and unfolded a photograph. This was on Grandma's dresser. "Thought you'd want it back." It was the three of us at a county fair, her on my shoulders, cotton candy, melting hair, wild. I couldn't remember who took it. "Thank you," I said. She turned and walked down the steps. Gravel shifted beneath her shoes. She didn't look back. I left the door unlocked. The photograph lay on the counter edges, damp from her hands. I touched the corner and left it there. The soup was cold. I ate a few spoonfuls anyway. A train horn carried through the distance, long and low, fading before it reached town. Rinsed the bowl, the clock showed past 10. Shut off the tap, dried my hands, stood still, unsure what came next. Mail slid through the slot the next day, bills, catalogs, one thick envelope from a lawyer's office. The name on the corner belonged to the firm that once handled my son's estate. My stomach tightened, though I didn't know why. A legal notice petition for financial arbitration. My name halfway down as guarantor in dispute. A forged agreement, a number too large to ignore. Stared at the paper, waiting to feel something. Shock, anger, disbelief, nothing. Just distance, like reading about someone else's trouble. Made coffee I barely touched. Grind, pour, stir, empty motion. Called the bank. The woman's voice stayed polite. Your co-signer documents are filed, Mr. Mason. Any contest goes through mediation. Even if the signature's forged, you'll need proof, she said. Thanked her and hung up. The kitchen felt smaller walls holding more than sound. Called Linda next. She didn't sound surprised. Let me guess, it got worse. Something like that. You have the papers. They forged more than my name. They forged trust. Then, don't face it alone, she said. Come by later, we'll figure it out. Agreed, though. Stillness was what I wanted most. She'd earned the right to insist. At the library, Linda had printed articles about financial fraud highlighted in neat blue ink. We sat at a corner table, papers spread between us. You have a case, she said, voice steady, but you'll need proof record samples, anything that shows this wasn't yours. I don't want a courtroom, I said, just an end, then stop protecting them. Her words landed plain. It sounds simple, I muttered. It is. It just isn't easy. We sat without speaking, the low hum of pages turning around us. When I left, she walked me to the door. Call if they reach out again. I probably will, I said, and she knew that meant they already had. At home, the phone rang before I'd hung up my coat. Grandpa, it's me, Rachel's voice rushed through. You'll get something in the mail soon, but don't believe all of it. Mom's panicking. She didn't mean for this to happen. I believe that part. The rest I'll let the lawyers handle. Please don't. It'll ruin everything. You could fix this. That's what you said before. I'm serious. Mom might lose the house. Then maybe she'll learn what a house costs when you build it with other people's names. Only her breathing answered, uneven, fragile. Finally, she whispered, You used to be kind. I still am, I said. I just stopped being useful. The line went dead. Later on, the porch traced the rail, newly painted. Across the street, a boy tossed a ball against a wall, catching it clean each time. The sight pulled up an old memory, Rachel at that age, chasing a rubber ball through the yard, laughing when it rolled away. The thought brushed past, then was gone. Made a small dinner, ate half-wrapped the rest. The television stayed dark. Only the fridge hummed steady in the background. Opened the envelope again, read every line. Near the end, one phrase stood out: settlement negotiation, available upon written request. Took a blank sheet and wrote a single sentence. All future correspondence should go through my attorney. Folded, sealed, and set it by the door for tomorrow's mail. No tremor, no righteousness, just stillness. Washed the dishes, turned off the lights, let the house settle around me, old wood breathing through the vents. Upstairs, sat on the bed with shoes still on. Rain began tapping on the roof, each drop a small punctuation mark in a story not yet done. Lay back and let the sound fill the room. When it stopped, daylight had already slipped in. Sleep had been shallow, broken by the gutter's spill and the storm's slow fade. The house held a faint dampness that outlasted the rain. Cooked oatmeal, though hunger hadn't come. The clock showed 8:30. The phone buzzed, ignored it. Every message sounded a like apology, dressed as excuse. Took the bowl to the porch, watched water fall from the eaves. Across the street, the neighbor's kid worked on his bike chain, hands dark with grease, tugging with the steady faith that persistence could make things fit again. That kind of certainty felt foreign now. The mail truck came late. The driver waved, same as ever, unaware of the envelope mailed the day before. Maybe that was mercy carrying other people's burdens without opening them. Spent the afternoon clearing old files untouched, since my son's passing medical forms, insurance slips, letters from well-meaning ghosts. Fed them to the shredder one by one until the bag filled with gray strips, soft as dust. When I straightened my back, my eyes caught the framed photo on the shelf, Rachel at 6, gap-toothed, holding a balloon. The sight didn't sting anymore, just pressed faintly like a bruise, learning to fade. The phone rang in the evening. The number was Private Bank Legal. I answered. Mr. Mason, a man said, even-toned, "We received your notice of representation. You're refusing direct mediation." That's right. For record purposes, your family claims the signatures were done with verbal consent. That's a lie. We'll document your position. You might prepare for a court public record and all. Let them, I said. Someone else can tell the truth for once. He thanked me as if we'd discussed plumbing repairs. I hung up. The stillness afterward felt heavier than the call itself. Linda stopped by unannounced, knocking lightly a paper bag in her arms. "You look pale," she said. "Eat before you fall over." "I'm fine." "You're not?" She set the pot on the counter. "You've lost weight, Ed. Don't pretend you haven't noticed." I gave a tired half-smile. "You sound like my wife used to." She had good taste then. We ate at the table where Rachel once did her homework. The stew was hot and full of flavor, and for a moment the house almost felt lived in again. "They'll push harder now," Linda warned. "You sure you can take it? I'm done handling things gently." She nodded. "You don't have to forgive her." "I know. Forgiveness isn't the price of peace," she said. Her words stayed long after she left. Back home, an envelope waited in the doorframe. No stamp taped shut. "I didn't mean for it to go this far. Please don't go to court. We'll fix it. Just give us time." The handwriting was hers. Set it on the counter beside the stew pot. Appetite gone again, walked to the shed. The old toolbox was still there, Grandpa's treasure chest, she used to call it. Beneath the tools lay the brass padlock she'd bought me at a flea market. Turned it in my hand before clicking it shut on the door. The sound was small, but final. Before bed, opened the notebook I'd started dates notes reminders for court. At the bottom of the page, I wrote without thinking, "Love doesn't excuse theft, even when it comes dressed as family." Lay still the thought circling back in silence. Maybe peace doesn't follow justice. Maybe it begins when you stop mistaking one for the other. The court letter arrived 3 days later, wedged between a grocery flyer and an electric bill. The envelope's fold carried that official stiffness that makes your stomach tighten before reading. A hearing date next month. I stared until the lines blurred, then set it face down on the counter. It wasn't fear I felt, only recognition. Everything had finally reached where it was always heading. The waiting had done its job. The unraveling was complete. Linda called soon after. "You heard from them, the court did. That fast, they move quicker when there's money to lose." She asked if I was all right. I told her yes. It wasn't true, but it didn't feel like lying either. Spent the afternoon trimming branches that bent too low over the fence. The rhythm helped me think without drowning in thought. Sawdust clung to my sleeves. I left it there. Near dusk, another voicemail waited. Rachel's voice sounded worn. "I didn't know Mom was filing anything. I told her not to. Please come talk to us before this gets worse." Replayed it twice, then deleted. Later, I sat at the kitchen table with a notepad listing what I'd need for court papers, witnesses' proof. My eyes drifted toward the empty chair across from me, the one she used to sit in after school. She'd reach for the biggest cookie, first pretending I didn't see. The memory passed like an ache that had learned patience. I drove to the courthouse the next day to file through my lawyer. He shook my hand. "You're doing the right thing," he said. "Doesn't feel like it. It rarely does at first. Standing up for yourself always costs something." We went through each form again. My name was printed clean, the ink steady this time. They might offer a settlement, he warned. "Don't agree without my call. I won't." That night, Linda brought a casserole. "You're not eating enough," she said. "I'm eating what I can keep down." She slid it into the oven anyway. Maybe this is the world's way of telling you to live for yourself. Feels harsh. Harsh lessons stay. We ate in silence. Before leaving, she touched my shoulder. "Don't let them turn you bitter." "I'll try," I said, though I didn't promise. Sat in the living room watching the curtains shift with each draft. My hand brushed over the fairground photo Rachel had returned. I turned it face down. The phone rang an unknown number. I almost ignored it. Mr. Mason, the lawyer on Rachel's side. His tone had that paid calm people use when they think money can mend what it broke. If you drop the forgery claim, we'll clear your name from the debts immediately. So I pretend it never happened. Essentially, yes. I've had enough pretending. I hung up. The dial tone hummed longer than it should have. In the kitchen, the casserole sat half-eaten on the counter. I covered it with foil, wrote tomorrow on a note, and slid it into the fridge. The clock ticked over another hour. I rinsed my hands, left the towel hanging unevenly, and turned off the last light. The days after the lawyer's call blurred together. I stopped checking the mail first thing. Most of what came were reminders or warnings about missed forms. I handled what mattered, left the rest stacked near the toaster. The place had turned into a filing cabinet of unfinished things. By midweek, the doorbell rang. Linda stood there, coat still on, holding 2 cups. You've been hiding. I've been thinking. Same thing, just lonelier. She stepped in without asking and set 1 cup on the table. How's your appetite? I eat what's in front of me. Then I'll start leaving better things in front of you. We drank in the same hush for a while. She finally said, they'll try something before court. People like that always do. I'm counting on it. Her eyes searched mine, then eased. You look different. Older, number lighter. Maybe she was right, or maybe exhaustion had simply stopped fighting. That night, I opened the hallway closet and found a box I hadn't touched since my wife was alive. Scarves letters, her old recipe book with the cracked spine. Tucked between pages was a note to Rachel. Be kind even when you're scared. I traced the words, then slipped the paper into my pocket. The next call came from a number I didn't know. Grandpa Rachel's voice trembled. I need to see you. Why now? Mom's losing it. She'll drag you through court if she has to. I tried to stop her. She's not the only one who made choices. I know, she said, breath uneven. But this isn't about money anymore. She wants to win, even if it ruins everything. Where are you? By your mailbox. She stood in the yard, hair tangled, eyes red. Not the girl from that fairground photo. I waited, then said, come in. She stayed on her feet, hands twisting her purse strap. You probably hate me. I don't. I just don't recognize you. Her shoulders sank. I thought I could fix it before you found out. That's how lies begin, thinking you control where they end. Tears slipped down her cheeks. You were desperate, I said. Not cruel. But desperation isn't permission. She took the glass I set in front of her, gripping it tight. Mom forged another document, she whispered. Changed the date so it looks like you agreed months ago. The lawyer doesn't know yet. You're sure I saw her do it? Then tell the court. Her eyes widened. You'd make me testify. I'm asking if you'll tell the truth. I'll think about it. That's enough. When she left, the house felt lighter, somehow emptied of something it had carried too long. I watched her car until it turned the corner. Later, Linda called. I told her what happened. She might be your witness, she said. She's still a child to me. She's not, and you're no longer the man who let others write his story. I smiled at that. Before bed, I placed my wife's note beside the court papers. Be kind, even when you're scared. Grace beside accusation. I didn't know which would matter more. I rinsed my cup, shut off the light, and walked through the house. The floorboards answered beneath my steps, steady as breath. A car door closed beyond the porch, then faded. The day began. I brewed a pot and let it cool. Too much movement in my head to taste anything. The hearing was a week away, and I felt neither dread nor relief, only readiness. I gathered papers, stacking them in even rows across the table, bank statements, deeds, Rachel's letter. Each sheet fit like part of a puzzle I'd been assembling for years. Maybe none of it would matter, but order gave me something firm to hold. Linda came before noon, calling my name from the doorway. "You're early," I said. "Didn't want to give you time to skip lunch." She dropped a paper bag on the counter. "Turkey and cheddar. The boring kind you like. You make it sound medicinal?" "Maybe it is," she said. "You need something ordinary in all this." She watched me sort the last folder, her brow drawn. "You sure you want the fight? I'm sure I can't keep pretending. That's not quite the same." "I know." Her hand found mine. "Whatever happens, you already did the hard thing. You stopped letting them write it for you." The words lingered between us. I nodded. After she left, I went to the shed. The brass lock hung dull with rust. The scent of oil and cedar hit sharp. In an old drawer beneath tools, I found a folded page in my wife's handwriting. "When the time comes, don't carry guilt for what others choose. Let people bear their own weight." She must have written it years ago, maybe after one of those long nights full of slammed doors. Somehow it felt written for this moment. Back at the table, I rewrote my statement. The first draft had too much bleeding between the lines. This time, I kept it plain: dates, accounts, forged signatures, and the fact I hadn't agreed to any of it. Facts hold steadier than feelings. The phone rang near 4. Voicemail. My daughter-in-law's voice came measured. "I don't know what Rachel told you, but we're fixing this. You don't have to make it public. Think of the family name." The family name, once clean, now worn thin like a coin passed through too many hands. I deleted the message and kept writing. Rain began again as dusk fell. I packed the folders into a canvas bag and set it by the door. The house felt still, almost deliberate, as if waiting with me. Then came headlights in the drive. Rachel's car. I didn't move until the knock came soft, hesitant. She stood drenched, her expression unreadable. "I shouldn't be here. You're already here." She stepped in, glancing at the bag near the door. "You're really doing it." "Yes. Mom says you'll regret this forever." "I've already spent most of it regretting what I didn't do." Her voice faltered. "I didn't think it would go this far. It always does. We just notice later." She glanced toward my wife's photo. "I miss her." "So do I. If she were here, she'd tell you to stop this." "No, she'd tell me to stop pretending." Tears gathered. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I know. But sorry doesn't erase signatures." The courthouse smelled faintly of varnish and wet coats. I arrived early, not from eagerness, just because waiting at home felt worse. A clerk pointed me to the hearing room, where 2 lawyers murmured over papers with no warmth. I took the left seat, the respondent's side. The title meant little now, just another label missing the truth. My lawyer gave a small nod. "Stay steady," he said. "Let the truth do its work." Across the room, Rachel and her mother sat together. Rachel's hands were locked tight in her lap. Her mother held herself like someone who'd practiced control. When our eyes met, hers didn't flinch. The judge entered young, already tired. She skimmed the file, brow tightening. "Let's begin." Questions came in a slow march. Dates, signatures, verification. My lawyer laid out the originals, showing the differences. His tone stayed even, while the other side tried to blur what was clear. The judge looked at me. "Mr. Mason, you confirm this isn't your signature?" "I do. I've signed my name 1,000 times in 40 years. That's not it." The room held still. Even the clerk's typing stopped. Then came cross-examination. Had I given verbal consent? Forgotten an informal deal, loved my family enough to help them? "I do love them," I said, "but love isn't a blank check." He dropped his gaze and moved on. When Rachel was called, she rose slowly, voice trembling, but steadying as she spoke. "They told me it would be fine, that Grandpa wouldn't care. I knew it was wrong, and I didn't stop it." Her mother hissed, "Rachel, don't." But she went on. "We used his name because we knew he wouldn't fight back. That's worse than asking." The judge lifted a hand. "Let her finish." Rachel's eyes glistened. I thought silence meant permission. I was wrong. Paper rustled. No one else spoke. Her mother stood shouting, "You don't understand what we've been through. He abandoned us." "I didn't abandon anyone," I said. "I just stopped mistaking sacrifice for love." The judge tapped her pen. "Enough. This is a legal matter." The rest, blurred statements, objections, closing notes. She said the decision would come in writing within 10 days. People stood, chairs scraped. Some hurried out, others gathered themselves in silence. I stayed seated until the room emptied. Rachel approached, tear-streaked, but upright. I told the truth. "I know. I don't expect forgiveness." "Good," I said. "That's not the point." She nodded once and left. Her mother followed, muttering low. The door closed. The echo hung, then faded. The sky had cleared. Puddles caught fragments of the courthouse columns, bending them with each passing step. My lawyer shook my hand. "You did well. Whatever happens, it's on record. That's enough." He smiled briefly and left. I lingered on the steps watching traffic on Main Street, buses crossing lights, strangers with paper cups. The world stayed ordinary, untouched by what had just split something in me. At home, the rooms felt newly still. Light slanted across the floorboards. Dust drifted where nothing had stirred for days. I hung my jacket, loosened my tie, and sat at the table. The court papers waited in their stack, but I didn't reach for them. I made tea instead, slow and deliberate the way my wife used to when silence needed softening. Steam rose, vanished. A knock came Linda. She stepped in cautious smile. "Well, it's over. For now or for good enough." She set a paper bag on the counter. "Apple pie. You look like you could use something that ends sweet." We ate without talk. After a while she said, "You look steady." "I feel steady. That's worth keeping." Dusk gathered without notice. She left before dark, promising to call tomorrow. I washed the plates, wiped the counter, put the kettle away. Routine fit again. Plain human. When the clock struck 9, I turned off the lights and started upstairs. The sound of rain was gone, replaced by the hum of the fridge and the slow creak of wood underfoot. Halfway up, I paused, not for voices or apology, just the stillness itself, then kept climbing. The letter from the court arrived the next afternoon. Plain envelope, no ceremony, the state seal in one corner, and my name neat above it. I opened it at the counter knife still in hand from slicing bread. It was brief judgment in my favor. Forged loans, voided claims, dismissed. My name cleared. No triumph, just breath, finally leaving after being held too long. I folded the letter, pinned it under a magnet on the fridge, and leaned against the counter. A delivery truck rumbled past. Someone somewhere signed for a parcel. Life kept its pace, unaware how much space one piece of paper could clear. The phone rang. I almost let it go, but the number was familiar. "Ed," Linda said. "Did it come?" It did. And they ruled for me. I heard her smile through the line. Finally. "Yeah. You all right?" "Maybe. Just empty." "That's not emptiness," she said. "That's peace before you learn its shape." We talked a few minutes about her sister and the weather. When the call ended, I stood there with the receiver still in my hand, then set it down and stepped onto the porch. Light stretched long across the yard. Leaves from next door had drifted over the grass. I fetched the rake and worked slow each pull, leaving neat stripes across the ground. A horn sounded down the street. Tires crunched over gravel Rachel's car. She got out in a gray sweater, hair tied back, no makeup, no anger. "I heard about the ruling," she said. "News travels fast," Mom told me. "She must be furious. She's humiliated. That makes two of us, though, not for the same reason." She flinched, but steadied. "I came to give you something, a manila envelope thinner than the one from court." "What's this proof?" "Originals, forged copies, the emails. I made copies for your lawyer before Mom could destroy them. I didn't take it right away." "Why now?" "Because I'm tired of her saying you deserved it. I wanted her to stop using you as her excuse. She won't, I said. If it's not me, it'll be you. I know, but this time it's her turn to carry it. I took the envelope and set it on the porch rail. What now? I'm moving out. Found a bookkeeping job a few towns over. Honest work, I said. Good start. She gave a faint, uncertain smile. I'll call sometimes if that's okay. I'll answer. She nodded and left. Her brake lights blinked once at the corner, then disappeared. I brought the envelope in, but didn't open it. Set it beside the court letter and washed my hands, the warm water grounding me in the moment. Later, Linda arrived with a bottle of cider and 2 mismatched glasses. Wine's too dramatic for good news, she said. To justice, she offered. To surviving it, I replied. We drank small sips, the tartness clearing the space between us. You don't sound angry anymore, she said. I think I ran out. What's left doesn't have a name yet. Maybe relief? Maybe. We sat on the porch steps as dusk deepened. Crickets started up in the grass. What now, she asked. Nothing big. Maybe repaint the shed, fix the mailbox. This place deserves some care. That sounds like living. Feels like it. After she left, I made tea. The kitchen carried a faint trace of cider and lemon. The letter on the fridge caught the light, and for the first time, I felt gratitude not for winning, but for finally being done losing. I took the mug to the living room and sat. The clock ticked in the corner. A faint breeze slipped through the frame, stirring the papers on the table. One edge lifted, then fell. I straightened the stack, let my hand rest there, and leaned back, not thinking of court or family or what came next, just breathing in the stillness that finally felt mine. The house felt different that week, not brighter, just open. I kept the windows cracked, even when it turned cold, to hear wind move through the trees. It reminded me life doesn't pause when you stop watching. Days fell into small routines again. I'd wake early, make coffee, read the paper, without caring much about the headlines. Habit mattered more than news. Sometimes Linda stopped by before work with muffins or leftover soup. She never stayed long, just enough to make sure I hadn't turned into a man living only in memory. One afternoon I climbed to the attic. The ladder groaned under me, dust hanging thick from old summers. Boxes marked miscellaneous lined the rafters, my son's baseball gloves, faded cards from people long gone. Every piece carried a faint echo, but none insisted on staying. At the bottom of one box lay a photo I hadn't seen in years, my wife in the garden squinting, holding up a crooked tomato like a prize. The colors had faded, but her smile still held warmth. I set it aside and kept going. By dusk, half the attic stood empty. I carried what I didn't need to the porch and stacked it neatly for donation. The cleared space felt almost equal to the one in me. The next day brought a letter in careful handwriting I didn't know. No return name, just a town a few hours north. Rachel. I moved last week, got a small place near the coast. The job's steady, and I'm paying back what I can. Mom's not talking to me, but that's her choice now. I just wanted you to know I'm trying to make things right, even if it takes a while. I read it twice, folded it, and slipped it between the pages of my wife's recipe book. Not forgiveness, not closure, just proof that something was still growing somewhere else. Linda called that evening. You sound lighter, she said. Maybe I am. You planning anything now that it's over repainting the porch? She laughed. That porch has seen more of your life than anyone has. It's earned some care. We talked about her fundraiser, the new volunteers, her niece's wedding. Conversation that solved nothing, but kept the world close. When we hung up, I stepped onto the porch. The paint had flaked again, grain showing through. It didn't bother me. Things age, that's their work. At the hardware store, I bought paint the color of sand. The clerk asked how retirement was treating me. Better lately, I said, and meant it. Back home, I brushed slow strokes along the rail. The scent of paint cut clean through the day. Each motion steadied my breath, and I caught myself humming a tune I didn't know. Linda arrived at noon with 2 sandwiches wrapped in paper. She sat on the steps watching. "You're missing spots. I'm leaving those for character. That what we call mistakes now, only harmless ones." She laughed and started helping both of us, moving in the same easy rhythm. Birds called from the trees. A truck passed fading down the road. We stopped when the sun dipped low. The porch looked new again, or near enough. The color softened in the light, warm and plain. "You'll sit out here tonight?" she asked. "Maybe. Haven't in a while." "You should. It suits you." She left soon after. I cleaned the brushes, packed the cans, and sat down with a glass of water. The air carried a faint chill. Across the street, children played their laughter, spilling free and unguarded. I stayed there a long time, no thoughts of court loss or fairness. Just the boards under me, the scent of new paint, the steady hum of a town going about its life. A breeze lifted the corner of Rachel's letter where it peeked from my pocket. I pressed it flat again, not to hide it, but to keep it close. Streetlights flickered on one by one. I watched them glow through the trees, and somewhere in that ordinary light I found enough peace to last the night. I finished the water, set the glass beside the chair, and leaned back. The boards gave a soft creak beneath me. The world stayed calm, no lessons, no conclusions, just the relief of having nothing left to defend. And the evening kept unfolding steady and unhurried, like it had been waiting all this time for me to finally sit still long enough to notice.